Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Morning. Good morning. All right. Okay. Mishnah Erevin, Parakeh, chapter 5, Mishnah Ches, Mishnah 8. Okay. Now, the scenario here is you've got two cities next to each other. One is large, one is small. And they are further than 141 and a third amas from each other. So as we learned previously, they cannot be considered one city. So the two separate cities, they both have two separate tchumen, right? They both have their separate way, their separate measuring of 2,000 amas in each direction. And the story here is that when you take the large city and it measures its 2,000 cubits, so in one direction, within its 2,000 cubits, the entire small city is included in that. Meaning when you count 2,000 cubits from the city in a certain direction, and in the direction of the small city is completely within the tchum of the big city. On the other hand, the tchum of the small city does not encompass the entire big city, but rather it goes into the big city. It ends in the middle, inside the big city. So the Mishna says like this: Anshi Ir Gedola, the people of the large city, Mahalchid es kol Ir Ketana, they can go through the entire small city. Ben Anshi Ir Ketana, but the people of the small city, Ve'ein Anshi Ir Ketana Mahalchid es kol Ir Gedola, but the people of the small city cannot walk through the entire large city. Now, let's work a little bit backwards here. The Mishnah says the people of the small city cannot walk through the entire large city. That means wherever their 2,000 cubits ends within the large city, that's how far they can go. They can't go any further. Now, on the other hand, if we look at the other case, where the large city's tchum encompasses the entire small city, is there any reason in the world to think that you shouldn't be able to walk through the whole small city? It's within the tchum. It's completely within the tchum. Why would I think otherwise? And therefore, the Bartanura points out that the point of this part of the Mishnah really is to say the following. And being that you wanted some cartoons, right? So here, again, very small to see. But, okay, here's you got the large city,
Which is the gray.
Right, which that entire tchum in that direction surrounds a small city, and you got the small city. Now, theoretically, okay, if I'm going to say that, all right, the small city is surrounded by the tchum, right? So I can for sure walk through, right? But when I count my 2,000 cubits in that direction from the large city, okay, so it would seem that perhaps or at first glance, one might think that, okay, if let's say the small city is 500 cubits wide, okay? So when I count my 2,000, let's call it 400 cubits, okay? So if I go ahead, let's call it 500. If you have 500 cubits, okay, so it would seem that, all right, so let's say the small city is 1,000 cubits within the large city. So I count 2,000 from that side of the city. So it will. So where would I say the 2,000 cubits of the large city ends? Again, beyond the small city. But where does it end? 500 cubits afterwards. I had 1,000 to the small city, 500 for the city, and then another 500 outside of the city. The point of the Mishnah, says the Bartanura, by saying that the people of the large city can walk through the small city, means to say, do not measure the small city according to its regular width or length, but rather consider it nothing more than 4 cubits. Walking through the city means to say that the same way that in my own city, right, we say you can walk around the whole city as much as you want. It's like your 4 cubits. That small city that is within the tchum of the large city does not halachically take up the space of its actual area. But when the Mishnah says they can walk through it, that means they can walk whatever they want, which means it's like they're 4 amas. We only count it as 4 cubits. So then, therefore, what really happens is like this. What really happens is that halachically, I count my 1,000 up to the city, right? The city only counts for 4, and I can continue from there. And then I continue by another 996 from there.
It's as if it basically didn't exist.
Right. It's as if it doesn't exist, which means in actuality, you gained 496 amis because, it's there, factually it's there, but we only consider it halachic like 4 amis in the counting of the 2,000 amis tchum from that side of the city. So you actually gained 496 amis. That's the halacha. That's the point here. That's the halacha. That's the halacha. Now, let's move on. Ketzad. We're moving on. Mi shahaya be'ir gedola. Now, this part of the Mishnah is something else. This part of the Mishnah actually goes on for another kind of case. This is an example. The Tanura says that there is wording missing in the Mishnah, and that this next part of the Mishnah is not discussing actually the first case of the Mishnah. First case of the Mishnah said that, the big city people can walk through the small city. The small city people cannot walk through the entire big city, can only walk through a part of the city. That case that we just had was where you're counting the 2,000 cubits and they're overlapping. And we say, okay, the entire small city, since it is completely within the tchum of the large city, it's considered only 4 amis. You can walk through it as much as you want. Doesn't even count. It only counts for 4 amis. Regarding the distance further than that, and the small city, its tchum goes up to up to a certain point in the large city, and that's it. What happened? Now our Mishnah is talking about a different story. Our Mishnah is talking about we're not overlapping, but somebody from the small city put their tchum Shabbos in the large city, meaning they wanted to be able to go in a certain direction more than 2,000 cubits. Now, the 2,000 cubits from that side of the small city they want to go ended within the city, like in our example before. So what did this guy?
That's for them. That's for him.
Right. Now, he wants to now go further. So what does he do? He puts his Tchum Shabbos, puts the food for Tchum Shabbos in the large city. So that now, okay, this is my place of residence for Shabbos, and I'll be able to go another 2,000 cubits in this direction. Right? That's what he wants to do. That's what a person typically does with a Tchum Shabbos. Okay. The Mishnah is about to tell us that in that situation, it's very different than we had before. It's going to be that both members of this now, again, or the case is that the person from the big city put his Erev down in the small city. Okay. Which, I guess for them, it's not going to be that relevant. But, in this, when you go ahead, the point now of the Mishnah is going to be that in both cases, in both people from each city, meaning the person from the small city who put his Erev into the big city, he can now walk around the entire city as if it's only 4 amis. Ketzad, how is this? Mishahaya be'ir gedola. Somebody was in the big city. And he put his Erev in the small city. He clearly, why is he doing it? Because he wants to go further than the small city. He wants to go further than that. Again, his tchum may encompass the entire city, but it does count as 4 amis, right? And that's all he's going to, and from there he gets X amount of amis. By putting it in Erev Tchumen, he may be able to get more. V'ir katana v'nasa rebir gedola. Or a person from the small city goes and puts his Erev in the big city because he wants to go further. Mahalech eskula. He can walk through the entire city. The person from the small city can walk throughout the entire city, the chutzal alpayim amma, and beyond that 2,000 cubits. By putting his Erev Tchumen inside the city, you have now become a member of that city. And if you live in that city, what's the halacha? You can walk as much as you want, no matter how big the city is. And then you get outside of that city another 2,000 cubits. If you put your Erev down in that city, again, it's not your city, it's not where you live, it's a different place. You put your Erev down in that city, you are now considered a member of that city. You live in that city for Shabbos. That's where you put your Tchum Shabbos down. And therefore, you can walk the entire city. I don't care how many amas it is. And not only that, after that, you'll get even 2,000 cubits after the end of that city.
You get a bonus.
You get a bonus. But that's all because of the fact that in the case of the first half of the Mishnah, it was overlapping. So then we say, okay, small city, your Tchum Shabbos ends within the large city. That's how far you can go. But in this case, the person of the small city put his Tchumen down inside the big city. He made his place of residence that city. Therefore, he's considered like he's a person of that city for Shabbos, gets the whole place. Walk for it, walk as much as you want around the city. And not only that, you're going to get another 2,000 cubits afterwards, because that's what happens when you live in that city.
And the other way around?
Other way around what? By the large print?
You're normally a resident of the big city.
If you put your, if you put your Erev down on this, again, now the truth is, the person from the big city was able to walk around the small city, even in the case of overlapping. Anyway. So I don't really think there's such a it wasn't so necessary for the Mishnah to have to put in that case about the large city putting there in the small city. But again, it's all in contrast to the case before, or we're contrasting it to the case before. So I think that's why the Mishnah put in about the small person from the big city putting in the small city. And he may have something to gain from it, practically speaking, regarding how much he gets beyond that, how much he gets beyond the small city. But the idea of being able to walk around the small city, he doesn't need the Erev in there to do that. The novelty is the fact that the person from the small city who puts his Erev in the big city, he can walk walk around anywhere he wants, because now he is considered a member of that city. Now, Rabbi Kiva says, sorry, all he gets, according to Rabbi Akiva, even though he put his Erev down in the city, is 2,000 cubits from where he put down his Erev. That's it. You'll get an extra 2,000 cubits. Again, if you didn't put your Erev coming down, and you would have just, dealt with the overlapping, you would have had up to where the Tchum Shabbos of the small city ends in the big city. That's how far you would have had. Now you put an Erev Tchumen down, you can go further in the city, but only 2,000 cubits more. Because according to Rabbi Akiva, if you're not there, then you're not there. And then you do not get then the city is not considered your residence. The whole city is not considered your residence. And you cannot walk anywhere you want in the city. All you could do is walk for 2,000 cubits from where you put your Erev down. So that is Rabbi Akiva's argument on the Tanakama. Tanakama says you put your Erev there, whether you're there or not, you put your Erev there. It's like you live there, and when you get there on Shabbos, you can walk around the entire city as much as you want and go 2,000 cubits to the other side, because it's your city. Rabbi Akiva says no. If you're not actually there, it doesn't help. You put your Erev down, fine. You have an Erev. You get 2,000 cubits from your Erev. But without actually being there when Shabbos begins, you're not going to be able to get the benefit of a person living in the city that can walk anywhere he wants and get 2,000 cubits beyond. The halacha is not like Rabbi Akiva. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi.